ও হে বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর দয়ার সাগর, এ দাসে করুণা করি। বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর দয়ার সাগর, এ দাসে করুণা করি। দিয়া পদ ছায়া সদকে আমারে, দিয়া পদ ছায়া, দিয়া পদ ছায়া সদকে আমারে, দিয়া পদ ছায়া সদকে আমারে, তোমার চরণ ধরি, তোমার চরণ, তোমার চরণ ধরি, তোমার চরণ ধরি। বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর দয়ার সাগর, এ দাসে করুণা করি। বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর দয়ার সাগর, এ দাসে করুণা করি। ছাইবে গদমি ছাই দশ সদি, ছাই গুণ দেহ দাসে, ছাইবে গদমি ছাই দশ সদি, ছাই গুণ দেহ দাসে, ছাইবে গদমি ছাই দশ সদি, ছাই গুণ দেহ দাসে, ছাইবে গদমি ছাই দশ সদি, ছাই গুণ দেহ দাসে। ছাই সৎসঙ্গ দেহ হে আমারে, ছাই সৎসঙ্গ দেহ হে আমারে, ছাই সৎসঙ্গ দেহ হে আমারে, ছাই সৎসঙ্গ দেহ হে আমারে। বসেছি সঙ্গের আসে, বসেছি সঙ্গের, বসেছি সঙ্গের আসে, বসেছি সঙ্গের। ওহে বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর দয়ার সাগর, এ দাসে করুণা করি। বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর দয়ার সাগর, এ দাসে করুণা। একাকী আমার নাহি পাই বল, হরি নাম সংকীর্তনে। 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 তুমি কৃপা করি শ্রদ্ধা বিন্দু দিয়া, তুমি কৃপা করি, তুমি কৃপা করি শ্রদ্ধা বিন্দু দিয়া, তুমি কৃপা করি। দেহ কৃষ্ণ নাম দানে, দেহ কৃষ্ণ নাম, দেহ কৃষ্ণ নাম ধানে, দেহ কৃষ্ণ নাম। ওহে বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর দয়ার সাগর, এ দাসে করুণা করি, বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর দয়ার সাগর, এ দাসে করুণা। কৃষ্ণ সে তোমার, কৃষ্ণ দিতে পারো, তোমার শক্তি আছে। কৃষ্ণ সে তোমার, কৃষ্ণ দিতে পারো শক্তি আর কৃষ্ণ সে তোমার, কৃষ্ণ দিতে পারো, তোমার শক্তি আছে। কৃষ্ণ সে তোমার, কৃষ্ণ দিতে পারো, তোমার শক্তি। আমি তো কাঙাল কৃষ্ণ কৃষ্ণ বলি, আমি তো কাঙাল কৃষ্ণ কৃষ্ণ, আর আমি তো কাঙাল কৃষ্ণ কৃষ্ণ বলি, আমি তো কাঙাল কৃষ্ণ কৃষ্ণ বলি। দায়িত্ব পাছে পা আছে, দায়িত্ব পাছে, দায়িত্ব পাছে পাছে, দায়িত্ব পাছে। হে বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর দয়ার সাগর, এ দাসে করুণা করি, বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর দয়ার সাগর, এ দাসে করুণা। হরে কৃষ্ণ হরে কৃষ্ণ, কৃষ্ণ কৃষ্ণ হরে হরে, হরে রাম হরে রাম, রাম রাম হরে হরে, হরে কৃষ্ণ কৃষ্ণ হরে হরে, হরে রাম হরে রাম, হরে কৃষ্ণ হরে কৃষ্ণ, কৃষ্ণ কৃষ্ণ হরে হরে, হরে রাম হরে রাম, রাম রাম হরে হরে, হরে কৃষ্ণ কৃষ্ণ হরে হরে, হরে রাম হরে রাম, রাম হরে, হরে কৃষ্ণ হরে কৃষ্ণ, কৃষ্ণ কৃষ্ণ হরে হরে, হরে রাম হরে রাম, রাম রাম হরে হরে, হরে কৃষ্ণ হরে কৃষ্ণ, কৃষ্ণ কৃষ্ণ হরে হরে, হরে রাম হরে রাম, রাম রাম হরে। ও হে বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর দয়ার সাগর, এ দাসে করুণা করি, বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর দয়ার সাগর, এ দাসে করুণা। দিয়া পদ ছায়া সদখে আমারে, দিয়া সদ ছায়া সদখে আমায়, তোমার চরণ ধরি, তোমার চরণ। দয়াল বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর, বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর, বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর, দয়াল বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর, বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর, বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর, দয়াল বৈষ্ণব, দয়াল বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর, দয়াল বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর, বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর, দয়াল বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর। এইবার করুণা করো বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর, এইবার করুণা করো বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর, আর এইবার করুণা করো বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর, এবার করুণা করো বৈষ্ণব গোসাই, এইবার করুণা করো বৈষ্ণব গোসাই, এইবার করুণা করো বৈষ্ণব গোসাই, পতিত পাবন তোমা বিনে কেহ নাই, পতিত পাবন তোমা বিনা কেহ, আপতিত পাবন তোমা বিনা কেহ নাই, আর পতিত পাবন তোমা বিনা কেহ, যাহারনি কটে গেলে পাপ দূরে যায়, যাহারনি কটে গেলে দূরে যায়, যাহারনি কটে গেলে পাপ দূরে যায়, যাহারনি কটে গেলে পাপ দূরে যায়, এমন দয়ালু প্রভু কে বা কোথা পায়, এমন দয়ালু প্রভু কে বা কোথা, আর এমন দয়ালু প্রভু কে বা কোথা পায়, এমন দয়ালু প্রভু কে বা কোথা পায়, গঙ্গার পরশ হলে পরশাতে পাবন, গঙ্গার পরশ হইলে পরশাতে পাবন, গঙ্গার পরশ হইলে পরশাতে পাবন, গঙ্গার পরশ হইলে পরশাতে পাবন দর্শনে পবিত্র কর এই তোমার গুণ দর্শনে পবিত্র কর এই তোমার প্রভু দর্শনে পবিত্র কর এই তোমার গুণ দর্শনে পবিত্র কর এই তোমার গুণ হরিস্থানে অপরাধে তারে হরির নাম হরিস্থানে অপরাধে তারে হরির নাম তোমার স্থানে অপরাধে নাহি কোয়ড়ান তোমার স্থানে অপরাধে নাহি কোয় আর তোমার স্থানে অপরাধে নাহি কোয়ড়ান তোমার স্থানে অপরাধে নাহি কোয় তোমার হৃদয়ে সদা গোবিন্দ বিশ্রাম তোমার হৃদয়ে সদা গোবিন্দ বিশ্রাম বৈষ্ণবরি দয়ে সদা গোবিন্দ বিশ্রাম বৈষ্ণবরি দয়ে সদা গোবিন্দ বিশ্রাম গোবিন্দ কহে নমঃ বৈষ্ণব পরাণ গোবিন্দ কহে নমঃ বৈষ্ণব আর গোবিন্দ কহে নমঃ বৈষ্ণব পরাণ গোবিন্দ কহে নমঃ বৈষ্ণব আর প্রতি জন্মে করি আশা চরণের ধুলে প্রতি জন্মে করি আশা চরণের ধুলি নরোত্তমে কর দয়া আপনার বলি প্রভু নরোত্তমে কর দয়া আপনার আর নরোত্তমে কর দয়া আপনার বলি নরোত্তমে কর দয়া আপনার এইবার আমায় কর দয়া এইবার আমায় কর আপতিতি পাবন বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর এইবার আমায় করো দয়া পতিতি পাবন বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর এইবার আমায় করো দয়া তোমার দাসের অনু দাস জেনে এইবার আমায় করো দয়া দাসের অনু দাস জেনে এইবার আমায় করো আর কৃষ্ণ নামে রুষি দিয়ে এইবার আমায় করো দয়া কৃষ্ণ নামে রুষি দিয়ে এইবার আমায় করো দয়াল বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর দয়াল বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর দয়াল বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর দয়াল বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর দয়াল বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর দয়াল বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর প্রভুপাদ 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 জয় জয় প্রভুপাদ 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 আর গাইবো ওজন কবে শ্রী চৈতন্য মোরে করিবেন দয়া 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 কবে আমি পাইব বস নবপদ ছায়া 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 কবে শ্রী চৈতন্য মোরে করিবেন দয়া কবে শ্রী চৈতন্য মোরে করিবেন দয়া গলবস্ত্র কৃতাঞ্জলি বৈষ্ণব নিকটে গলবস্ত্র কৃতাঞ্জলি বৈষ্ণব নিকটে গলবস্ত্র কৃতাঞ্জলি বৈষ্ণব নিকটে গলবস্ত্র কৃতাঞ্জলি বৈষ্ণব নিকটে দন্তে তৃণ ধরি দাঁড়াই দন্তে তৃণ ধরি দাঁড়াই দন্তে তৃণ করি দাঁড়াই দন্তে তৃণ করি দাঁড়াই ইব নিষ্কপটে ইব নিষ্কপটে কবে শ্রী চৈতন্য মোরে করিবেন দয়া কবে শ্রী চৈতন্য মোরে করিবেন দয়া কাদিয়া কাদিয়া বলে ইব দুঃখ গ্রাম 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 সংসারয় নাল হইতে মাগিব বিশ্রাম সংসার অনাল হইতে মাগিব বিশ্রাম আর সংসার অনাল হইতে মাগিব বিশ্রাম সংসার নাল হইতে মাগিব বিশ্রাম কবে শ্রী চৈতন্য মোরে করিবে দয়া কবে শ্রী চৈতন্য মোরে করিবে বৈষ্ণবের আবেদনে কৃষ্ণ দয়াময় বৈষ্ণবের আবেদনে কৃষ্ণ দয়াময় বৈষ্ণবের আবেদনে কৃষ্ণ দয়াময় বৈষ্ণবের আবেদনে কৃষ্ণ দয়াময় ইহা মোপা মোর প্রতি হবে ন সদয় এখান পা মোর প্রতি হবে ন সদয় বিনোদের নিবেদন বৈষ্ণব চরণে বিনোদের নিবেদন বৈষ্ণব চরণে কৃপা করি সঙ্গে লগ কৃপা করি সঙ্গে লগ এই কিঞ্চনে কৃপা করি সঙ্গে লগ এই কিঞ্চনে কবে শ্রী চৈতন্য মোরে করিবে দয়া কবে শ্রী চৈতন্য মোরে করিবে দয়া কবে আমি পাইব নব পদ ছায়া কবে আমি পাইব নব পদ ছায়া হরে কৃষ্ণ 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 হরে 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 রাম 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 হরে 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 কৃষ্ণ 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 হরে 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 রাম রাম হরে 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 কৃষ্ণ 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 হরে 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 রাম রাম হরে 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 কৃষ্ণ 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 হরে 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 রাম Ramo Ramo Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. So let us all thank Nandana Prabhu for those wonderful, wonderful bhajans, and to Dharmama Prabhu for organizing these programs all the time for the Vaishnavas that have left us. Yesterday, we should begin with all of us offering our obeisances to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnavadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminitti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaudavani Pacharane Nirvasesha Sunyavadi Paskachadesha Tarane. And to each other, and to Vibhu Caitanya Prabhu, Vanchakalpatrubhyascha, Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha, Patita Nam Bhavanebhyo, Vaishnave Vaishnave Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So yesterday, in that wonderful, sublime Bhagavad Gita recitation in the Prabhupada's courtyard, every year I look forward to that. And so many wonderful verses reminding us of devotion, that we do our service, our consciousness, everything we do, we try to do in a devotional mood. So this was Vibhu Caitanya Prabhu, a very, very rare, pure devotee. His whole life, especially the 30-plus years that he was here serving in ISKCON Vrindavan, was about devotion. Although he had an eccentric personality, you may say, but we see what the service is, and we overlook material things about a person's personality. Vaishnavas can come in so many different forms. So Vibhu Caitanya Prabhu was always in the kitchen in the early days. And it's been said many times that he was doing the service of 6 men. He was carrying the coal, he was carrying the wood, the cow patty, dried cow patty dung to start the fire. He had maybe one helper, I've heard, cutting up the vegetables, but every day, cooking for our Lords and, of course, for Srila Prabhupada. And there's a wonderful, wonderful story that our beloved Srila Bhakti Charu Swami tells, that during the final days when Prabhupada was upstairs in his house, lying down, and he hadn't eaten for many days. And so, of course, we all know that if you've been fasting for many days, then one shouldn't take something fried to break the fast. And plus, Prabhupada's condition was such that he was only taking a little bit of buttermilk, just little. So he's there, and he told Bhakti Charu Swami, one of his servants at that time, go get me kachori. He had smelled the kachoris that Vibhu Caitanya Prabhu was cooking for the Lords. And we all know that Prabhupada is known as Kachori Mukhi. So he smelled the kachoris that Vibhu Caitanya was cooking in the kitchen. But Bhakti Charu Swami was alarmed that, oh no, Prabhupada, you can't have something fried. And he said, go get me kachori. This is how Bhakti Charu Swami tells the story. So he went down to the kitchen, And he told Vibhu Caitanya, and what he says about Vibhu Caitanya, he didn't even question, he didn't flinch. Prabhupada wants kachori, so he put the kachori on the silver plate, and Bhakti True Swami went back up and gave the kachori to Prabhupada with a trembling hand, he said, because everybody was so Prabhupada really relished the kachori, and Bhavananda was there, Bhavananda Das, and Vibhu Caitanya, and a few others, maybe one or two others. And everybody was so afraid that this would have a much more negative effect on Srila Prabhupada's body. But then Prabhupada surprised everyone and said, "Go get me another one." And so Srila Bhakti True Swami was saying this was the worst news he could ever get, because his business was to take care of Prabhupada, not give him something that might disturb his health. So he went down, and again he noted that Vibhu Caitanya Prabhu didn't even flinch, just put the kachori there. He went back up, and Prabhupada relished the kachori, and nothing happened. But what we all reflected upon, and what Srila Bhakti True Swami was reflecting on, is that Bhakti True Swami, is that this was a special relationship that Srila Prabhupada and his disciple, his pure devotee, had. And so this was a way of telling Vibhu Caitanya that his kachoris were so very nice that even in this stage of Prabhupada's final Leela, that he wanted the kachori that Vibhu Caitanya Prabhu had made. So, and another story is we had a girls' school here in, I believe it was 1988. I had noticed that, Bandhu's daughter was here, Burijan's daughter, Daivi Shakti, my two daughters, Lola's daughter, Prabhupada disciples all having daughters here, and there was no facility for education. So I put together a girls' school and got some educational materials from the U.S. Embassy. So we would do academics in the morning, and then at noon we would come for the Raj Bhogarti. And of course, those were the days, 88, 89, when Vibhu Caitanya now was his body would not let him cook anymore. So he became the person who gave the Charitamrita. And it was very wonderful how he would do this, again, with so much devotion, putting the drop of not like a big, huge, where it spills over, very carefully, with so much devotion. And the girls, there was about, maybe we had 9 or 10 girls. They would all line up, and they just relished having this, because he was very playful as well, Vibhu Caitanya, kind of grandfatherly away, and with those who he knew. So in getting to know these girls every day, he would hold their hand very carefully, and he would put it in, and he would make sure that they took it properly. And then they would go outside and wash their hands, not just walk around the temple after you had licked your hand. And so the girls really look forward to that. And still today, all these girls now are about 41, 42. They still remember Vibhu Caitanya Prabhu. And he would walk over to Srila Prabhupada on the Vyasasana. And at that time, his disease was advanced osteoporosis. So if you're not taking proper care, then the body, as we see in many elderly people in Vrindavan, it keeps going down, going down. So at that point, as we've seen pictures of Vibhu Caitanya, he was walking practically 90-degree angle, always like this, down, down. And he would offer his prostrated obeisances in such a condition in front of Srila Prabhupada, and he would stay down there a long time. And the girls would wonder, is there something wrong? Should we go in? But he was saying all these prayers. Of course, Prabhupada's pranam prayers, but other prayers too, glorifying Srila Prabhupada. And then he would get back up with a brilliant smile on his face after offering the pranam prayers to Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada, he stayed in ISKCON Vrindavan for over 30 years, and this again shows his devotion to Prabhupada's mission here with ISKCON Vrindavan. And his was one of the first samadhis that was established at the Vaishnava Samadhi area. and done in the very beautiful Vedic tradition of how the samadhis are made, very beautiful. Now it's kind of crowded over there, but in the old days, his was one of the first ones. Other thing was that there was a time, I can't remember the year, Dinabandhu, was like 88, 89, when all the men got sick one night for putting Krishna and Balaram to rest. It was 2 nights in a row, and so they called, it was myself and maybe 6 or 7 other women, 2 women for Nitai Gaur, 2 for Krishna Balaram. I got to dress Balaram, and Nartaka Gopal, our dear god sister in America, she dressed Krishna. Vrindavan Vilasini had Sham, and then there was another Mataji, I can't remember, Radharani. So it was the 2 nights in history that the mothers were called to dress the lords for those 2 nights, because for some ironic reason, none of the men came. Either they were sick or they were restricted. They went on a strike on Krishna? How can you go on a strike on Krishna? Okay. Anyway, somehow or another, it was Krishna as arrangement. That because in the West, the ladies, we do a lot of pujari work. We get to dress the lords. We take care of their clothes, their jewelry. So many of us, in fact, all of us, when I think of it, were pujaris in the West. So possibly Krishna was giving us an opportunity. And Vibhu Caitanya was present, and they went around, someone went around and asked, is this okay? Is this appropriate? And someone mentioned that Vibhu Caitanya said, we have to do the needful. We have to do the needful. It's not about the gender of the devotee to, take care of Krishna at night, to put his night clothes on. I still remember that outfit. There's actually a couple of photos of me dressing Balaram and Nartaka Gopal, my dear sister, dressing Krishna. So for that reason, too, very grateful that Vibhu Caitanya, being a senior devotee, was so, again, the devotion. The devotion was what was the reason why we got to do this, because maybe we had a little devotion, and Vibhu Caitanya Prabhu was acknowledging that, and so that was also a very nice pastime with Vibhu Chaitanya Prabhu. When we, yesterday in our wonderful, wonderful Bhagavad Gita recitation, Krishna says that to worship the devotee, to serve the devotee, is even more important than serving himself. So in this way, Vibhu Chaitanya is sitting there day after day with the Charanamrita. Being such a senior Vaishnava, he could have gone somewhere, he could have maybe taken rest in his room, but he was determined up until the last breath to do some service for Prabhupada's ISKCON Vrindavan. And even in his room, he would take apart the garlands, and he had this beautiful altar of Nitai Gaur Krishna Balaram Radhe Shyam pictures, and every day doing puja when he could barely move. And his assistant, I forget who that was at that time, saying, no, I'll do it. And he was very, and every day, remember Daiva Shakti Prabhu telling us to come and take prasadam from his hand, Mahaprasadam. He loved giving out Mahaprasadam. So we were all very fortunate. I don't want to take up more time. Dinabandhu will enliven us with his memories. But let us all fall down at the lotus feet of such a great Vaishnava, Vibhu Chaitanya Prabhu. Hare Krishna. This is how it is now, our bodies. But if we can be like Vibhu Chaitanya up until the last breath.
हरे कृष्णा। विभु चैतन्य प्रभु तिरुभाव तिथि महामहोत्सव की जय। विभु चैतन्य प्रभु की जय। हरे कृष्णा। Thank you, Dharmatma Prabhu. Every year you are celebrating Vibhu Chaitanya Prabhu's disappearance. So I was very happy for this. आप हर साल उत्सव बनाते हैं तो मेरे को भी बुलाते हैं तो मेरे को बहुत खुशी होती है। आपकी जय जयकार हो, दिन दोगुना रात चौगुना आपकी भक्ति बढ़े रहे इस तरह से, क्योंकि सीनियर डिवोटी का सेवा आप बहुत अच्छी तरह से उनको करते हैं। तो क्योंकि एक्चुअली विभु चैतन्य प्रभु और मैं एक साथ में ज्वाइन हुए हैं यहाँ पर वृंदावन धाम में। तो सबसे पहला जो टेम्पल कमांडर था इस मंदिर में हरीश्वरी प्रभु जी थे। तो उन्होंने हमको, मेरे को और उसको दोनों को एक ही रूम में रख के उनका रूम में कमरे में, क्योंकि अक्षयानंद महाराज ने कहा कि मतलब ये दोनों को यू ट्रेनिंग देम नाइसली। सो तो उन्होंने हरीश्वरी प्रभु ने हमको ट्रेनिंग दिया है यहीं पर। ये पहले उस समय ये रेस्टोरेंट के ऊपर ब्रह्मचारी आश्रम था, अभी तो गेस्ट हाउस में कन्वर्ट किया है। तो नीचे प्रसादम हॉल था रेस्टोरेंट के ऊपर प्रसादम, और इधर जो लाइब्रेरी बनाया वो लेडीज़ प्रसादम था। तो उस समय तो यहाँ का वातावरण कुछ नहीं था, एकदम ऑलमोस्ट जंगल था, जंगल में कन्वर्ट था। रोड भी बहुत धूल थी, छोटी थी, कोई ये दुकान वगैरह कुछ नहीं थे एकदम। जब हम आए यहाँ, जब ज्वाइन हुए उस समय, तो तब विभु चैतन्य प्रभु ने और हमको हरीश्वरी प्रभु ने हमको ट्रेनिंग दिया। तो तिलक लगाना कैसे सिखाया, धोती पहनना सिखाया। तो फिर बाद में मेरे को जो है मंदिर साफ करने की सेवा दी उन्होंने, और उसको जो है और डिवोटी किचन में सब्जी वगैरह कटिंग की सेवा दी, क्योंकि उनको कुकिंग आता था। उन्होंने कहा कि आपको क्या सेवा आता है, तो कुकिंग। तो उन्होंने हरीश्वरी प्रभु ने उनको जो है डिवोटी किचन में लगा दिया था। तो फिर बाद में हम दोनों को दीक्षा भी एक साथ में हुई थी एक कोटियाट में। और तो फिर उसके बाद और वो जब हमको ब्राह्मण दीक्षा मिली तो फिर प्रभुपाद ने मेरे को जो है पुजारी डिपार्टमेंट में लगा दिया, क्योंकि उस समय पुजारी लोग यहाँ बहुत कम होते थे, धूप चलती थी मई जून में वगैरह अप्रैल से। तो विदेशी भक्त थे उसमें, कोई भारतीय यहाँ नहीं थे। तो उस समय तो उनका वीजा प्रॉब्लम हो जाता था, किसी को मलेरिया आ जाता था, तो बीमार पड़ते थे। तो हेड पुजारी को परेशान रहता था, क्योंकि आरती करने के लिए कोई भक्त नहीं होते थे। तो फिर अक्षयानंद महाराज ने मेरे को जो है प्रभुपाद के पास में लेके गए, तो ब्राह्मण दीक्षा दिलाई कि मतलब ये लड़का जो है मंदिर से अच्छा सेवा कर रहे हैं, प्रभुपाद जी उनको पुजारी बनाना है। प्रभुपाद ने ओके नो प्रॉब्लम, तो मेरे को ब्राह्मण दीक्षा दिया, और विभु चैतन्य प्रभु को भी ब्राह्मण दीक्षा दिया। तो फिर प्रभुपाद ने उनको जो है उनके बंगाली भाषा में उनसे बात की, मतलब कि आपको अभी कहाँ सेवा कर रहे हैं? बोला मैं डिवोटी किचन में सेवा कर रहा हूँ। तो प्रभुपाद जी बोले ठीक है, तो आप डीटी किचन में जो है सेवा करिए, वहाँ कुकिंग करिए। पहले तो वो थोड़ा हेल्प कर रहे थे शुरू में डीटी किचन में, तो फिर बाद में धीरे धीरे उनको जो है कुकिंग में कन्वर्ट किया गया, ताकि वो उनको अच्छा प्रसाद बनाना आता था। तो कुछ दिन प्रभुपाद के लिए कचौड़ी बनाया, उन्होंने भोग लगाया, तो प्रभुपाद जी को देने को गए, तो प्रभुपाद जी को भी अच्छा लगा, जैसे अभी माता जी बता रही है। तो उनको अच्छा लगा, तो मेरे को बता रहे, क्योंकि मैं वहाँ बार हम पुजारी थे, तो फिर हमको भगवान का प्लेट बनाना पड़ता था, डीटी किचन में जाना पड़ता था बार बार, क्योंकि पुजारी सर थे, तो हमको सुबह से शाम तक सब आरती करना पड़ता था मेरे को यहाँ पर। तो क्योंकि फिर बाद में ओमकारा जो है पुजारी था यहाँ पर, ओमकारा प्रभु जी, तो उनको प्रॉब्लम था पुजारी का, तो इसलिए सब सेवा हमको देता था, वो दे रहे थे। तो इसलिए तो विभु चैतन्य प्रभु जी बोलते थे कि मतलब प्रभुपाद जी को कचौड़ी बहुत अच्छी लगी। मेरे को बताते थे, क्योंकि मैं जब प्लेट बनाता था राजभोग वगैरह की, तो उन्होंने बोला कि ये चीज़, ये आइटम, ये सब आइटम जो है मेरे को बताते, ये लगाओ ये लगाओ। बहुत अच्छा उनका डिवोशन था यहाँ पर। बहुत अच्छी तरह से वो जो है किचन में किसी को आलतू फालतू को आना नहीं देते थे, अलाउ नहीं करते थे। वो आए तो उनका माइंड डिस्टर्ब होता था। बोलता मैं कभी कभी ऐसा डिस्टर्ब होता था, बोलता कभी कभी छोड़ने का इच्छा हो जाता था सेवा। मैं बोला क्यों छोड़ रहे, किस लिए, क्यों? हम नहीं कोई भी आ जाता है, कोई भी कुछ भी कर देता है, कुछ भी बना लेता है, तो वो मेरे को पसंद नहीं है। तो इस तरह से वो बोलते थे। तो फिर बाद में धीरे धीरे फिर मैं 79 में तो राधा रास 78 में राधा रास बिहारी का मंदिर खुला। तो मैं 79 में राधा रास बिहारी मेरे को बम्बई बुलाया, तो मैं बम्बई में जुहू में चला गया, तो वहाँ का मैं पुजारी बन गया। तो फिर उसके बाद तो यहाँ प्रभु जी तो जो है विभु चैतन्य तो यहाँ सेवा में लिप्त थे। कुकिंग का पूरा हेड उनके हाथ में सब आ गया था, तो वो कर रहे थे। तो हम कभी कभी आते थे साल में एक आध बार यहाँ पर मंदिर में, तो मैं भी आरती करता था। आरती अब पुराने पुजारी है तो वो हेड पुजारी बोलते थे कि आप आरती करिए आरती करिए। तो मतलब ठीक है, अभी तो मौका ही नहीं मिलता है आरती करने का। और हम भी पिछले बहुत सारे पुजारी हो गए, पुजारी का बहुत लाइन लग जाता है, तो इसलिए मैं भी अभी जाता नहीं हूँ कि पुजारी मैं आरती करता हूँ बोल के, क्योंकि हमने बहुत खूब आरती की है शुरू से सुबह से मंगल आरती से लेकर रात को शयन आरती तक। तो इस तरह से तो विभु चैतन्य प्रभु जी जो है बहुत सिंसियर डिवोटी है। और प्रभुपाद जी उनको बहुत पसंद करते थे, बंगाली भाषा में बात करते थे, वो सब मेरे को बताते थे विभु चैतन्य। तो एक्चुअली फिर ये बहुत इस तरह से बहुत गंभीरता से फिर बाद में तो पता नहीं क्या हुआ। लेकिन जब मेरे समय में हम थे तो हमारा अच्छा दोस्ती था उनके साथ में। तो इसीलिए ये धर्मात्मा प्रभु बोलते आपके दोस्त है, आप आ जाइए प्रभु जी उनके बारे में 2 शब्द बोलने के लिए। तो मेरे को भी खुशी होती है, क्योंकि वो इज़ माय वर्ल्ड फ्रेंड। एक साथ में हम रहे, एक रूम में हम रहे, क्योंकि हरीश्वरी प्रभु ने जो है हमको ट्रेनिंग दिया अच्छी तरह से, वो हमको जानते हैं। तो सीनियर डिवोटी है। तो हरीश्वरी प्रभु पुराने भक्त है, यहाँ बहुत साल वृंदावन में रहे शुरू से ही। प्रभुपाद बाद में प्रभुपाद के सर्वेंट बने। तो प्रभुपाद के सर्वेंट बने तो उस समय प्रभुपाद के सर्वेंट थे, तो हमको हम लोगों ने ब्राह्मण दीक्षा ली। तो टेम्पो कमांडर थे, हमको फर्स्ट इनिशिएशन और ट्रेनिंग उनके द्वारा हुआ है। तो इस तरह से जो है उस समय के अभी भक्त लोग यहाँ बहुत कम हैं, नहीं कोई दिखाई नहीं पड़ता है। भक्ति सिद्धांत प्रभु जी तो मायापुर चले गए हैं, जब हम थे उस समय वो यहाँ थे। तो इसी तरह से जो है ये मंदिर तो मैं भी अपना बहुत भाग्य मानता हूँ, जो कि मैं इतना दूर से आया कैसे, मेरे को तो कुछ मालूम ही नहीं था कि यहाँ पर ISKCON है, ये है वो है। उस समय कोई टेलीकास्ट नहीं था, टीवी नहीं था, फ़ोन नहीं था, कुछ नहीं था। अननोइंगली आई जस्ट केम हियर विदाउट नोइंग द ISKCON, मतलब बिना ISKCON यहाँ पर है करके मैं इधर यहाँ आया। यहाँ इस मंदिर में किसी ने मेरे को बताया कि मतलब मैं पहले दूसरा आश्रम में अखंडानंद स्वामी आश्रम में रहता था कुछ दिन, तो वहाँ मैं संस्कृत पढ़ाई करने के लिए आता। इस हिसाब से तो फिर बाद में मेरे को मालूम, तो फिर इधर यहाँ मेरे को देख के लोगों ने भी ये समरहारी प्रभु है, गिरिवरधारी प्रभु जी है। हाँ समरहारी है, उस समय ये ही जो हेड कुक वॉज ही डिवोटी किचन में कुकिंग करते थे। तो उन्होंने मेरे को भक्त बना दिया यहाँ पर समरहारी। और इसने गिरिवरधारी, समरहारी भी समरहारी जो है गिरिवरधारी उनका भाई है, छोटा भाई। तो उनको थोड़ा, ये दोनों को थोड़ा थोड़ा हिंदी आता था। तो उन्होंने मेरे को आरती में देखा तो प्रसाद मेरे को लेके गए, तो अक्षय महाराज के पास ले गए, उन्होंने भक्त बना दिया। वो तो मैं तो अभी मेरा हिस्ट्री तो नहीं बताना है, क्योंकि वो तो विभु चैतन्य प्रभु का दिन है आज, तो उनके लिए बताना है। तो इसलिए जो है विभु चैतन्य प्रभु बहुत अच्छे भक्त है, उन्होंने बहुत अच्छे सेवा की इस मंदिर में। तो आज ये तिरुभाव का तिथि है, तो इसलिए मैं भी अपना भाग्य मानता हूँ, ताकि मैं ये साल में इधर ही हूँ तो मेरे को भी धर्मात्मा बोलने का मौका दिया। नहीं तो मैं दिसंबर में जो है बम्बई चला जाता हूँ, यहाँ ठंडी होती है तो 3 महीना वहाँ रहना पड़ता है मेरे को। फिर बाकी फिर मार्च फरवरी एंड में इधर आता हूँ। तो लेकिन फिर भी अभी मैं अपना को बहुत भाग्यशाली मानता हूँ, ताकि मेरे को आज आपने मौका दिया। हरे कृष्णा, विभु चैतन्य प्रभु की जय। थैंक यू।
Hare Krishna. So Vibhu Caitanya Prabhu, he's one of the hidden jewels of Krishna Balaram Mandir. Only those devotees who served here, and a few, very few outsiders knew Vibhu Caitanya. That time I think, well, sometimes Virasa used to live here, so sometimes he would come and go, but he also knew Vibhu Caitanya. And I can remember when I joined here in 1984, Vibhu Caitanya was always in the kitchen. And he cooked all the offerings. He was there from about, I guess, I don't know, about 3:30 in the morning he came, and then he would go back at 12 o'clock, after all the offerings were done. He would go upstairs, and he would always have Mahaprasad, and he would feed it to the birds. The temple commander didn't like it because the floor would get all dirty, but he was always up there after the 12 o'clock arti. He would be up there feeding all the minor birds. There's one he especially took care of, only had one leg, so he always made sure that he would chase the others away so that one could get some. And then, again, 4 o'clock, he'd go back in the kitchen, and he would be there till, I don't know what time at night, late at night, he would come back and take rest. And I can't remember exactly his purvashram. He had some sort of a... Huh? What did he do? He had some sort of a shop, grain shop or kid. Acha, but he had some sort of business. He had a little shop. I never knew that he had a son, but when he was leaving his body, his son came. Anyway, he was always. I remember him just in the kitchen, and whenever you went by the kitchen, you would hear the sweetest melodies of Hare Krishna coming from the kitchen. Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. All day long he was there cooking, and nobody else. He wouldn't let anybody else, make the offers. He would do everything himself. And he's the only devotee I know. Srila Prabhupada personally told him, you don't have to chant rounds. You just do your cooking and you chant Hare Krishna. So all day long this beautiful melody was coming out of the kitchen whenever you went by. And then somehow I would just come and go. I was with me and Pundarik. We had a bus with those deities that are now in Indra Prabhu's room, Nitai Sachi Sundar, whatever their name is, and we had them in the back of our bus. Finally, they dragged me out of my bus and put me on the hot seat. And I always knew when I got Radharani's mercy, Vibhu Caitanya would come in my office with a whole leaf cup of Mahaprasad. Then I knew that day I must have done something right. Radharani gave me her mercy. And he was completely opposite of me. I'm always Nandagram, Barsana, Govardhan, Radhakund, Shamakund, Gokul, Bandirban, Dauji, somewhere in Braj. Always wandering around. Vibhu Caitanya never went anywhere. Prabhupada told him that the whole of Braj is within these four walls of Krishna Balaram Mandir. I think one time the devotees forced him to go to Ramakrishna Mission or something like that, to the hospital, for some medical reason. But otherwise he never went anywhere. And he's always just chanting, and then noontime he'd always feed the birds. And there was another, who was that other devotee there was another old guy with him? Vishnupad. I completely forgot his name, Vishnupad. Another old guy that also got initiated by Prabhupada. They both stayed here together. They're both old devotees. We were all youngsters. And now we're the oldsters. We turn around, look, oh, we're the I'm the old people that we used to talk about. So, unfortunately, Vishnupad's parents, when he got very old and a little sick, then his family took him away. But anyway, Vibhu Chaitanya, he refused to go anywhere. He never left Krishna Balaram Mandir. And finally, he was getting older and older, and even his back wouldn't stay straight. You would see him, come. He always came, for some. He's always there at Samadhi Arti. He was always there at Mangal Arti. He was slowly bending over and over, and finally it was becoming very difficult for him to cook. Somehow we convinced him, the management convinced him that he should no longer cook, that it was just too much for him. And then you would see Vibhu Chaitanya on this little garden retaining wall that we have there. He would just sit there outside the Pujari door. All day long you see him sitting there chanting. He just couldn't accept that he couldn't do his service anymore. He was always sitting there. So finally he decided he would do because I think Vishnupad was doing the Charanamrit service, and then Vishnupad left, so then Vibhu Chaitanya took over the Charanamrit service. And it was like electricity. He would always grab your hand, and it was just like this transcendental electricity would come into your body. He would always take your hand very firmly and put some Charanamrit. And he just always, you could see him bending over more and more and more and more and more. So finally, we got some rooms in the guest house because he was always going up and down the stairs. It was too much, so we got some rooms in the guest house. You can see that beautiful picture. They had all the deities all around it, just completely surrounded by the deities. And Prabhupada, so many beautiful pictures. And still, whenever you came to see him, he always gave Mahaprasad to whoever came. He always had Mahaprasad. I can remember Dhanara Swami told us that one time, when Vibhu, at the time before he was doing the Charanamrit, he was sitting outside on that little retaining wall for the garden. He was sitting there, and Dhanara Swami walked by, and I think he said 6 or something like that. He said 6. Dhanara Swami said, "What?" He said 6. He said, "What?" He said, "To do what I was doing, they need 6 people." What he was doing alone, they could barely get done with 6 people. And he was always so sweet and so loving. You see this picture at its end, he couldn't get up, he couldn't walk, and finally he just bent over so much, and his legs wouldn't work anymore. He just sat in this room surrounded by these pictures. If ever you came, he'd always make sure you got some Mahaprasad. And I guess it was named Narayan? We were always envious of him because he wouldn't accept any service from his godbrothers, but Narayan was serving him hand and foot. He was so devoted to Vibhu Chaitanya. Rup Sanat. Oh, I was thinking Rup Sanatan. Yes, my COVID brain. Rup Sanatan was serving him so nicely. So finally, on this day after Moksha Ekadasi day, on Dwadasi day, Vibhu Chaitanya is surrounded by all the devotees. We're having nice rip-roaring kirtan, and somewhere around middle of the day, before noon, he breathed his last and went back to the spiritual world to cook along with Radharani and the Sakis. So he was very, very special devotee, but he was a hidden jewel, because only those who lived here, we really knew him. Because he was just always hidden in a kitchen. Of course, gradually at the end, people began to know him, because everybody got that wonderful experience. You could grab your hand to put the Charnamrit, and it was just like electricity went through your, spiritual electricity went through your whole body. And he was just such a wonderful devotee. So somehow or other we've made a samadhi. He was one of, as Mahadevi said, he was one of the first samadhis there. Now it's getting crowded. He was one of the first samadhis there in the Goshala. And we always just remember his kind, you see that beautiful kind smile. He was always so sweet. And just always remembering that walking by the kitchen, you just hear that wonderful tune of Hare Krishna mantra coming from the kitchen. Vibhu Caitanya Prabhu ki.
Hare Krishna. Gurave Gaura Chandraya Radhikaya Tadaraye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. His Grace Vibhu Chaitanya Prabhu ki. So we are here assembled to celebrate or remember disappearance of His Grace Vibhu Chaitanya Prabhu, a very wonderful devotee. So I was very fortunate to have a lot of association with him. When I first came here to Vrindavan in 1980, so he was there in the kitchen, and I was serving in the temple, cleaning the temple. First, all the devotees were doing all the seva in the temple. No, practically hardly any laborer were there. So we were cleaning temple morning, noon, and night time. So, but then there's one devotee who was cleaning the deity's plates, and he broke his arm. And didn't have anybody. Then they called me, "You can do that seva." I said, "Okay, fine." And then I was doing the seva, cleaning the deity's plates. And so Vibhu Chaitanya, so he was cooking, but so on, he was in charge of, actually, at that time, you may say practically the whole deity department. So he was cooking, organizing everything in the kitchen, so cooking all the offerings and all the sweets by himself. And we had 2 or 3 helpers cutting the vegetables and, of course, cleaning the pots. But then even outside, so the transfer room was there, very, very small place. Now it's bigger, so a very small place was there. And he was also controlling when the Mahaprasadam was coming out. Not that anybody could come. Now everybody's coming, getting some Maha, trying. Of course, now Nantilil Mataji is there, trying a little bit also to control. But he was there also controlling the Mahaprasad, where it's supposed to go. Some was going for selling, and also some for the cook, and some for the helpers. So he was controlling. And that also. So then I was cleaning the plates, and then he was telling me, "Okay, you can have this little prasadam also." And so I was doing that maybe for 2 months, and then they asked me to go on Sankirtan, distributing books. And then, but I had such a nice experience with him, because I saw he was so dedicated, and so he was very strict and strong, but he was very, very sweet. I mean, everyone had to follow exactly what he was saying in the kitchen. Like the pot was here, this pot was here, that pot was there, and all the spices, everything was as he wanted. And when they had to clean, they had to put it wherever he wanted. And but he was very sweet and loving. And so we used to get the Mahaprasad, and he was distributing to so many devotees a Mahaprasad. So then I was going on Sankirtan, but every 2-3 months we used to come back, and then I used to always see Vibhu Chaitanya Prabhu also. And we used to get some, the Sankirtan devotees, he was giving them also some Mahaprasad whenever they used to come back. So in this way still some relationship was there. And then after my health was not so good, I went to Switzerland, I went to New York for a little while, and then I came back. And maybe after 3 years. And then Vibhu Chaitanya, when I came back, I saw him still there cooking most of the offerings. And so I was happy to see him. And afterwards, I was in the Gurukul teaching for a little while, and then they needed a pujari for Radhesham. So then I became Radhesham's pujari, and later on, so then I was there, and Purnachan Prabhu was head pujari, and so he was, of course, Vibhu Chaitanya. He had so much respect also for Vibhu Chaitanya. Whenever he came, he used to offer respect to Vibhu Chaitanya, who was there in the kitchen. And so sometimes they had some disagreement, but Vibhu Chaitanya was practically, of course, in charge of the kitchen and the surrounding area. And so then later on, I became head pujari in 1992, and so then of course my relationship was, of course I took his blessings before becoming head pujari, and they were saying yes, sure. And then so I had more opportunity to have an exchange with him, and many times I used to go to see him. He was upstairs in the Gurukul building, towards the back side. He was there in the room, and Rup Sanatana Prabhu was serving. And because he was there since Prabhupada's time, and so I used to go and ask him, you need anything, I can do any seva. Always used to say no, as Dina Bandhu Prabhu was saying, very difficult to serve him. Only Rup Sanatana was there practically serving. And those in the kitchen, they could help him, assist him, but otherwise he didn't need anything for himself. Then one time I was still pujari at that time, not head pujari. Vibhu Chaitanya, so he did all the cooking by himself. And one time he decided on Ekadashi, actually we should offer some Ekadashi prasad to Prabhupada and Bhaktisiddhanta, because we are not eating grains. And then not only he wanted to offer to Prabhupada and Bhaktisiddhanta, but he wanted to distribute Mahaprasad on Ekadashi also. So he cooked all the Rajbhog, and he had separate arrangement and offered some Ekadashi Prasad for Prabhupada and Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada. And then he was distributing that. But then one time the temple management and the GVC, they were saying, well, why is cooking Ekadashi preparations on Ekadashi? There's no need, we just offer the grains. And then I was there when he was in the kitchen on Ekadashi cooking, and the president came and told him, Vibhu Chaitanya Prabhu, this is the last time you're cooking Ekadashi preparations on Ekadashi. No need, you stop it. And he was, of course, disappointed because he was doing everything with love and devotion, and he wanted to distribute prasad also on Ekadashi. But so he accepted, and he was continuing with his seva. So it was really amazing to me that he was cooking so much, and then on Ekadashi having some Ekadashi preparation for Prabhupada and Bhaktisiddhanta. So later on, so yes, as Dinabandhu Prabhu was saying also, when it was getting a little more difficult to cook, so then, and actually, again, there was some actually disagreement with some devotees, and then he decided that he will not cook anymore. And actually, just at that time also, we changed the Shingasan of the deities, new Shingasan, and there was a little incident there. And after that, actually, they asked the head pujari Purnachan to step down, and then they asked me to become head pujari, and so then after that, So, as Vibhu Chaitanya was not cooking, then actually my wife was cooking for a little while, for 2 months maybe, although no ladies allowed, but there was nobody else, for the Rajbhog. Other things some other Prabhujis were doing. But as Dinabandhu, as we have heard, I heard him saying also 6 people needed to cover his seva, so it was not easy. So they asked my wife also to cook. But then after that, Bhuvaneshwar came forward and then he was cooking the Rajbhog after Vibhu Chaitanya Prabhu. And then, so then he was not cooking, and I was thinking, he's such a wonderful devotee, he should still do some seva. And then I asked him, and he didn't want to cook anymore. But then at that time Vishnupad was there doing the Chanamrit, as Dinabandhu Prabhu was saying. Then his family members took him away because his health, he was very old, his health was not so good. And then, so again there, even when Vishnupad was doing, there were 2 other devotees also doing the Chanamrit. Not only one person, there were 2 or 3. But then when he left, so we had some difficulty in covering the seva, distributing Chanamrit. And I thought, well, let me just ask Vibhu Chaitanya if you like to do. And he said yes. And then he was doing, and then, because devotees are coming and going, and then suddenly other devotees also going, and Vibhu Chaitanya was doing Chanamrit seva from morning till evening, alone, only him was doing the Chanamrit seva. And so he used to come in the Pujari room, and I used to get the Chanamrit, everything he was doing himself. At one point also again it was getting difficult, and he had some devotees to help him. And then he had the idea to put a fridge where we have Tulsi Devi. Then we got the fridge for him there. I was thinking it's a little unusual, but because he was old I said, okay, let it just be there, a fridge, not a big deal. But then some devotees complained, no, we should not have the fridge there, and then the fridge was put in the Pujari room. But then we had some devotee helping him to bring, because he could not get a Chanamrit by himself. He was so much already bent down. But he was doing many years then the seva. So many years he was doing the cooking from 75 or 76 till 92. Means 16 years. He was cooking for the deities, and then maybe it was in 93 till he left. So it was which year he left? 2007. So that means again, 13 till maybe 15, and the last 2 years also he couldn't do again, maybe 12 years. First 16 years in the kitchen, and then 12 years distributing Chanamrit, practically by himself. First in the cooking, he was doing everything, and then distributing Chanamrit he was doing by himself. Only then, when he was really not able to do much, then slowly but surely, then he needed some help. And then again, when he left, not possible to find one devotee to do all the seva. Then again we needed 3, 4. And even now we have 4, 5 devotees doing the Chanamrit seva, and then when somebody is leaving, we have to get somebody else. And in the kitchen, we still need 6 devotees cooking. So we have now 6 devotees practically cooking. Very wonderful devotee and sweet devotee, as so Dinabandhu Prabhu was saying. And so he was distributing the Chanamrit very lovingly, and he was taking everyone's hand. The sannyasis, the Prabhujis, the Matajis, the children. And then also, so he was giving with the spoon the Chanamrit, but taking the hand and then making sure that they're not dropping the Chanamrit down. He was telling them, careful. And he had a towel also, one for his table and one for the floor, because he had so much respect for the Chanamrit. And even for the flowers, many times the flower garlands are distributed, it was going on the floor. Many times he himself was going, I saw him picking up all the flower petals, just out of so much respect for the Lord and the tadiya, the things related to the Lord. And also the children, many times they cannot hold, they're doing like this, and it was going down. So what he did, he was buying some, he bought some small cups, or he had some devotee buying for him some small cups. So the children, they could drink like this, the Chanamrit. But even the big people, the adults also, they wanted to take with the cup. Until you can take some more, get more nectar. So he was very, very conscious in doing the seva so nicely, perfect. The cooking he was doing perfect and so organized and every day very perfect cooking and very nice and tasty. Although there's always somebody complaining, even sometimes devotees were saying he's always cooking the same, every day is the same. But then I was telling devotee one time who told me, yeah, but every day is nectar, what is the problem? Every day we're chanting Hare Krishna, no problem, right? And we can get the ras. So every day was cooking, every day it was nectar. Nice halwa, I liked his halwa. Of course the sabjis were nice, although he was Bengali, but he was not putting too much chili. He's also cooking, but he's putting too much chili and Narayan. Thoda sa kam chili dena. So he was not putting too much. Some chili was there, but not too much. It was very, very tasty every day. And nice halwa, I liked his halwa. And the famous burfi. The kachoris also. Yeah. Yeah, and the sweet, the burfi, the small burfi, very small, with koa and sugar, very simple but very nice. And the kachori, and we know even Prabhupada one time he was asking when he was making kachori, he was making for the deities and Prabhupada was smelling he was making kachoris. He asked, okay, the servant, bring kachoris. And then they were going there and they were offering to the deities. It was just 11 o'clock, going for the offering. And so first usually we offer to the deities and then the Mahaprasad we distribute, but it was 11 o'clock. But he knew that we offer to Guru and there's no difference. And so then the hot kachoris he had just made, so it was given on the altar and then he was making some extra and then they were giving to Prabhupada the hot kachoris which he made. Yeah, one time he made some sweet, a special sweet. Sometimes he made some special sweet. So we had a burfi, and that was actually the daily sweet, the burfi, which he made. There was a morning a burfi, but there was a daily sweet, the burfi also. But one time he made the special sweet, and so my wife, she was sometimes also helping still and doing something. And then she asked him, Vibhu Chaitanya Prabhu, how did you make that sweet? Can you please tell me? He said, no, this is secret, I cannot tell anybody. And then he said one thing, you can put the ingredients, but most important is bhakti. You need bhakti, not just the ingredients, you must have bhakti. I said, yes, we don't have bhakti, it's okay. And he had so much bhakti, so he's doing me bhakti and it was so tasty. So in this way, so many wonderful exchanges were there. And then later on, when he was not able to do the Chanamrit, we had to have a few devotees. And then, because he could not walk up anymore, so then he got the room in the room number, I think number 5, there in the back side of the guest house. And then, so he was there, and then he used to call me regularly also, and see how is everything going on, and I was also trying to see how he's doing. And then he told me he wants the picture of the deity. I said, okay. And then, as we see the picture here, then he could see. Actually, Rup Sanatan was staying with him in the room. He was just staying in one corner of the room, next to the bathroom. And then he was on the wall, 2 sides of the wall. Then he had the pictures of the deities, many pictures. And then every day he was asking the pujari to bring the Mahagalans in the evening of the deities. And then he was putting on the pictures which he had there of the deities. And then, so he was never asking that I used to ask him, you need anything? He was saying, no, is everything okay, no problem. And then one time he asked Rup Sanatan to call for me, and then I came, and then I said, yes, Vibhu Chaitanya Prabhu, what can I do for you? He said, I need some money. I was surprised, you need some money? I need every month 300 rupees. I said, you need 300 rupees? Yes. I said, okay. And then every month I was giving him 300 rupees, and I was wondering. And then actually what he was doing, he was buying some misri, the little small pieces of misri and some peanuts. And then he was offering that, and he was giving that as prasadam also. And also, he was getting some leaf cups, some small things, so he could very nicely give the prasadam, not just in the hand. So in this way, so he was continuing with his seva for almost 1.5 years, just doing his seva in the room of giving the mahagalan to the photos and then offering everyday incense, offering some little bhoga, and then distributing to the devotees. And he used to call different devotees, not only me, but other devotees, please come and see me. And then many times I come, I offer my obeisance. He said, no need, but still. And then I said, please give me your mercy. And then he was putting his both hands on my head, and I was always feeling very blessed and encouraged by his love. So he was doing that for almost 1.5 years, and then his health was deteriorating, and then he was not able to do much, and he was lying. And then we understood that it is time for him to leave this world, and so then we had different devotees also to serve him, and actually, so I had gone for some preaching to Indore, and so then on Dwadisha, but I think it was in the evening he left the body, as far as I remember, in the evening time, maybe 7 o'clock or something, or 7:30, and then devotees called me. So very nice memories are there of Vibhu Caitanya Prabhu, and and it's wonderful that we are continuing to do a little glorification of him. And also at 12 o'clock we'll offer some bhoga, and we'll have Pushpanjali, and we'll do Atik. So in this way we can be connected, and we can pray for his mercy, and surely he's there to give his mercy upon us. His grace, Vibhu Caitanya Prabhu ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I was fortunate enough to know Vibhu Caitanya almost from the day that he arrived. And when Prabhupada had him cook before he was even initiated for their lordships, for the deities. And then finally he took initiation. I believe Prabhupada gave him double initiation at the same time. Then he needed an operation, and he needed to train someone to do the Rajbhog offering. The other offerings he had trained already. So he chose to train me because I had been cooking for Prabhupada, and I learned all of his secrets, how to cook the Rajbhog, and every single day. I only had to do for 10 days, but Vibhu Caitanya, he did for years and years and years, every day, those offerings. When I think of Vibhu Caitanya, actually I think of the Bhagavad Gita, the 8th chapter, where Krishna explains the spiritual world and how one enters through Ananya Bhakti, and how this is the only way to enter. Because here, this is the embassy of the spiritual world. It's like the halfway house. We can go back to Maya, or we can proceed from this place. And here in the halfway house, we get to see people who are getting ready to go back to the spiritual world. And we can observe them and learn from them also how to prepare to go back to Krishna. And by watching Vibhu Caitanya, I was able to get a glimpse of what it takes to actually leave this mundane material world and gain entrance into the spiritual world, absolutely, without a doubt. Because he was a real example of Ananya Bhakti, of that pure, unadulterated, nothing, no other interest, he had given up everything after completing his responsibilities in his household life. He came all alone to Vrindavan, never associating again with his family, and then 100%, 24 hours a day, year after year, serving their lordships directly. We hear that Krishna's favorite place is the altar and Radharani's favorite place is the kitchen. So he was always assisting Radharani, singing so beautifully, despite the fact that he had no helpers sometimes. The helpers just wouldn't show up. He'd have to do everything, even wash the pots. So watching him over the years, I began to see that I'm so far away from this pure devotional service compared to Vibhu Caitanya. I have so many hindrances, the upadis, and the other things that I'd rather be doing than serving the way Vibhu Caitanya serves. No one has been able to serve like Vibhu Caitanya in all these years. I've never seen anyone serve like him. So although he was the humblest of the humble, he never expected any type of special facilities, nothing. When he couldn't do one service, then he would do another service and another service, up to the point, Mukunda Datta said that he would ask for the evening mala, the Mahamala. Well, the next morning he would take those garlands, he would take them apart and pick out all the flowers that were still nice and restring them into garlands and put them on the pictures of the deities. That was his devotion. He always found some way to serve the Lord. And with that 300 rupees, he not only got prasadam, but he had a big bag of stainless steel cups and spoons. And anyone who came to see him, he would give them this gift of the stainless steel spoon and cup. So that he always, and this would be an impetus, trying to draw people. Sometimes he would send prasadam just to pull us to come and visit him. And he was missing the devotees so much because previously he would have hand-to-hand contact with all of the devotees every single day. Hundreds and thousands of devotees, he would grasp their hand and very carefully put the Charanamrita in their hand. And now he was compelled to stay in the room number 5 all alone. He missed the devotees so much. So I made sure that every morning, first we tried to do it just when class was over, but everyone was running to prasadam, so it wasn't a good time. So during the time that now we do the parikrama of Prabhupada, after Guru Puja, I grabbed whatever devotees were here, new devotees, old devotees, Prabhupada disciples, tell them, come see Vibhu Caitanya. And every single day I'd bring at least 2 or 3 devotees to come see him, because I would understand how much he was suffering without the association of devotees, up until the last. And then one devotee came from South America, and he had just finished seeing to his father. His father died, and he had served him up to the end. And he was a physiotherapist. So I brought him to see Vibhu Caitanya, and he was massaging Vibhu Caitanya. And one day, while he was massaging Vibhu Caitanya very hard, I saw that he was crying. So afterwards, I asked Prabhuji, why were you crying today? He said, from serving my father, I could understand when it's time to leave the body. And Vibhu Caitanya is ready to go now. And the next day, he was finished. He became unconscious, and they tried to tell Vibhu Caitanya, this person's here, that person's here, but he was already in the spiritual realm. He wasn't there anymore consciously. So all the devotees gathered. They all chanted Hare Krishna. No one could chant as beautifully as he did. I don't know if anyone else knows, maybe Nandananda knows the tune. You already sang it? Oh, sorry, I missed it. Forgive me. So, up to the very last minute, the devotees, they love Vibhu Caitanya so much. And Prabhupada explains that in the spiritual world, there's also an ISKCON. Everyone can go there except for Mr. Nair. And I'm just praying that I can go there and I can help Vibhu Caitanya in the kitchen again. I'm just looking forward to that I can serve Krishna Balaram and Radhasham Sundar and be his helper again, and he can teach me more of his secrets. Hare Krishna. Jai.
वंशा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। विभु चैतन्य प्रभु की। तो मैं बिफोर ब्रह्मचारी गौड़िया मठ, तो आई गोइंग टू प्रीचिंग दिस प्लेस प्रभुजी हाउस 24 परगना दिगिरपाड़, the one devotee's house stay, and every day do Nagar Kirtan. तो one day Nagar Kirtan after his son coming, ओ आप लोग कि ISKCON से आया? बोले नहीं नहीं, हम लोग गौड़िया मठ से आया। बोले मेरा पिताजी वृंदावन में एक कृष्ण बलराम ISKCON मंदिर में कुकिंग करता है। हम बोला तो मेरे को तो पता नहीं है, मैं तो इमलीतला उस टाइम आता था। तो ठीक नेक्स्ट ईयर आई कमिंग इमलीतला, एंड आई ऑल्सो कमिंग, आई मीट विभु चैतन्य प्रभु, एंड विभु चैतन्य प्रभु and his son like coming meet Vibhu Caitanya Prabhu. तो उसको पता नहीं है कहाँ पे रहता है। तो हम next year again I going fishing there. I told the ISKCON temple there he kept cook. तो वो मेरा साथ आया था और विभु चैतन्य प्रभु के मैं उसका सन लड़का को लेके आया था और मिलाया था। उस टाइम हम ब्रह्मचारी था। तो मैं जब शादी किया 86 में, तब आया दैव शक्तिपता जी हमको रूम दिया रहने के लिए गौशाला में। दीनबंधु प्रभु प्रेसिडेंट, पहले मेरा कीर्तन में था। तो उस टाइम मेरा पत्नी का कितना 16 साल की उम्र था, मैं 25। तो उधर में बैठे बैठे मैं कीर्तन करता था 24 नाइट 4 to night 8:30 कीर्तन। तो विभु चैतन्य प्रभु आके बोलता था तुम घर नहीं जाएगा, तुम्हारा पत्नी वेट कर रहा है। महेंद्र प्रभु माने सम जोकिंग, ओ यू वाइफ, ओके आई हाफ एन आवर आई गिव रेस्ट, बट 8:30 DT लास्ट आरती। तो महेंद्र प्रभु कीर्तन करता था, मैं मेरा पत्नी को लेके चले जाता था गौशाला में। तो विभु चैतन्य प्रभु पता चला जो मैं आगे ब्रह्मचारी था, मिला था। तो उस टाइम से सो क्लोज फ्रेंड मेरा विभु चैतन्य प्रभु। जो भी आता था मेरा पत्नी को आके प्रसाद देता था, मिठाई संदेश। उसके बाद मेरा विशाखा हुआ, बड़ा लड़की हुआ 87 में। तो बहुत प्रसाद खिलाया मेरे को। रिमेम्बर है जब खिलेन प्रभु फीस्ट बनाया था गुरुकुल में। पहले तो डिवोटी किचन अलग था गेस्ट हाउस में, अब बाद में धनुधर महाराज डिसाइड किया डिवोटी किचन और गुरुकुल किचन एक। तो उधर में फीस्ट बनाया था, मैंगो जूस का अंदर दिया था क्या, राबड़ी। अब वो खा के सबको डायरी हुआ था। उस टाइम विभु चैतन्य प्रॉब्लम हुआ था हॉस्पिटल में। कोई तो हम लोग को नहीं हुआ था, कुछ ज्यादा खाया था उसको हुआ था। तो विभु चैतन्य प्रभु को हॉस्पिटल में लेके जाना पड़ा था। तो और एक बार हुआ था जब खिलेन को शूट हुआ था, गोली हुआ था। उस टाइम किचन में बाजार मार्केट करने के लिए कोई नहीं था। तो मेरे को पूरा मार्केट DT किचन का, डिवोटी किचन का पूरा मार्केट मेरे को करना पड़ता था उस टाइम। अब विभु चैतन्य प्रभु अनेक प्रॉब्लम आया। जब पुण्यचाँद प्रभु हेड पुजारी बना था उस टाइम, तो वो आके मेरे को बताता था जब प्रभु पुण्यचाँद प्रभु कैसे उसको ट्रबल देता है। समटाइम ये मंगाता था, बोलता नहीं है, वो मंगाता था नहीं है। बहुत प्रॉब्लम दिया पुण्यचाँद प्रभु विभु चैतन्य प्रभु को। और विभु चैतन्य प्रभु उनार सेवा, ऐसे सेवा हम लोग बोलता है कोई आदमी सेवा करता है नाम नहीं करता है, कोई नाम करता है तो सेवा नहीं करता है। लेकिन विभू चैतन्य महाप्रभु नाम आज सेवा दो ही चलता था। विभू चैतन्य प्रभु का हम बोलता था प्रभु जी आप शांति नहीं करता है, बोले नहीं प्रभुपाद मेरे को बोल के गया मेरे को सेवा करने के लिए। लेकिन उन्होंने एक श्लोक मुखस्त करके रखा था विभू चैतन्य प्रभु, अतएव श्री कृष्ण नामादि न भवेद ग्राह्य इंद्रिय सेवन मुक्ति ही जिब्बाद स्वयं एवं स्फुरत्तद। एक्चुअली रूप गोस्वामी प्रभु गोस्वामी दे शिक्षा ये श्लोक बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट। बहुत लोग सेवा करता नहीं है, खाली नाम करते हैं हरे कृष्ण, किंतु यदि वही नाम सेवा का माध्यम में होगा तो वही सेवा रियल सेवा होगा। और मैं तो खाली हम सेवा कर रहा है नाम नहीं कर रहा है, कोई नाम कर रहा है सेवा नहीं कर रहा है, दो को एक करना चाहिए। श्री कृष्ण नाम और सेवा दो एक होना चाहिए। तो विभू चैतन्य प्रभु के साथ मेरे साथ बंगाली में बहुत कभी कभी जैसे अहेंद्र प्रभु मेरे को साथ लेक्चर माने कि 1 घंटा 2 घंटा लेक्चर 7 का ऊपर में लेके मेरे को देता था। क्यों? नहेंद्र प्रभु बोलता था गृहस्थ मेंटेनेंस नहीं लेगा। दीनबंधु प्रभु दिया था 250 रुपीज मेंटेनेंस। रिमेम्बर दीनबंधु प्रभु दैट टाइम माय फैमिली मेंटेनेंस 250 रुपीज। अहेंद्र प्रभु जे नो टेक मनी, नो नेटिंग, ओनली टेक प्रसादम एंड फ्री सेवा। तो सार्वभौम बेंगली सार्वभौम प्रभु टोल अहेंद्र फ्यूचर ही हैव चिल्ड्रेन, तो हु गिव मैरिज? कृष्ण गिव मैरिज। अहेंद्र प्रभु बोलता था कृष्ण गिव मैरिज, नो टेक मनी। तो भी सार्वभौम प्रभु आफ्टर सार्वभौम प्रभु गिव restaurant in charge and guest house in charge, he give 250 and president temple authority give 500 rupees family maintenance. After Vishaka Lolita, तो उस टाइम दीनबंधु प्रभु अब कीर्तन करते थे। One day Punochat Prabhu making feast रूप all GBC Tamal Krishna Maharaj all GBC and my wife help cooking, mostly my wife, and big nice and Dinabandhu said cook तो पुनश्चत प्रभु से नंदन वाइफ कुक। तो दोनों जब बाला चले गया, you remember बाला one day left, no anybody cook, kitchen in charge, and Dinabandhu Prabhu decide Nandanandan kitchen in charge. Dinabandhu Prabhu give kitchen in charge. After a long time kitchen in charge, after 93, so that time kitchen in charge one problem, devotee kitchen and Gurukul together. एक साथ में तो सब डिसाइड किया क्या ना डिवोटी कुकिंग करेगा, कुकिंग मी अनदर 2-3 डिवोटी भिगु अनदर डिवोटी कृष्ण भक्ति, तो ऑफरिंग डीटी सेम टाइम जो ऑफरिंग ऑल दे आर कुक एंड गोइंग ऑफरिंग डीटी एंड दैट टाइम विभू चैतन्य प्रभु खूब डिस्टर्ब व्हाई सम टाइम ही लेट कमिंग, यू नो ही आर कुक बिग क्वांटिटी, नो फिनिशिंग राइट टाइम and even second time arati after again offering there. So after decide no, this devotee kitchen cooking they are not going, वो दर में नहीं जाएगा। क्यों? लेट होता था ना, 2 बार ऑफरिंग करना है वो, तो ऑफरिंग प्रॉब्लम हो जाता था। विभू चैतन्य प्रभु आई एम 93 प्रेसिडेंट कदम्ब कानन प्रभु मेक गौशाला इंचार्ज। That time how much milk? Morning coming 250, evening 250. So much milk. I make ghee. 190 give DT, 40 give devotee, another giro, every grihastha 2 liter. My Dharmatra Prabhu Mami that time coming. I give half liter milk, na? Maybe give. So one day less milk, sometimes give less milk cow, and everything finished, so maybe 5 liter less give. Same Bhubaneswar Prabhu styles me, oh Nandan, why not give it more 5 milk? You less give 5 liter. Why give less 5 liter? 95, sometimes 100 liter milk I there give. So Vibhu Chaitanya Prabhu said, no, every day same quality you give, no less, no more. And Vibhu Chaitanya Prabhu coming bullock car, and every day Nandanandan family nice prasadam. Every day give packing this my wife enjoy so much. My daughter, everybody told, oh, I Nandan, your 4 daughter is so healthy. So somebody said, oh, why not? Cow milk and Krishna Balaram Prasad. तो विभू चैतन्य महाप्रभु जब ये देह रखा तो मैं इधर में नहीं था. हमें 2005 में गया अमेरिका और 2007 में देह रखा. हमें जाने का टाइम हम बहुत प्रणाम करके कृपा लेके प्रभु जी अपनी कृपा करी कीजिए. मेरा डॉटर के लिए मैं को जाना पड़ेगा ही. माना क्या था, विभू चैतन्य प्रभु बोला था तुम मत जाओ. मतलब हमारा अभी लड़की शादी देना है तो मेरे को तो जाना ही पड़ेगा. मैं प्रॉमिस किया माई वाइफ मेरे को पत्नी को, मेरा 4 लड़की शादी हो जाएगा नहीं जाएगा. तो मैं 2021 में वापस आया और मैं ही नहीं जा रहा. क्यों? हमारा लड़की हमारा काम हो गया, शादी हो गया. इसलिए अभी वृंदावन में है. पंचगोड़ा प्रभु बोल रहा है इधर में कुछ देखो. बोले नहीं, अभी भजन करेगा, कीर्तन करेगा, गुरु पूजा कीर्तन बस वृंदावन में. तो यार महेंद्र प्रभु, विभू चैतन्य प्रभु and আমাদের ভুবনেশ্বর প্রভু, 3 devotee, very dedicated devotee. Same Mahendra Prabhu, same Vibhu Chaitanya Prabhu and Bhuvaneshwar Prabhu. 3 very nice devotee. Association, I know. Chaitanya Bhagavat में were writing, Vaishnav Sinite Nare Devar Shakoti. Vaishnav, no, Devi God no understand Vaishnav. Who is the Vaishnav? How we understand? But understand, you are Vaishnav, so you understand Vaishnav. You not Vaishnav, you not never understand Vaishnav. Understand. Dinabandhu Prabhu, no, president going Govardhan Parikrama, night. Whole night Dinabandhu Prabhu, president, then every Purnima going Govardhan Parikrama. Me pele midango. That time health very, all Govardhan Parikrama pele midango. And sometime Vrindavan Parikrama, sometime fishing, going Parikrama and coming, that time no any AC. Now how many AC we understand? Only no any AC. Dinabandhu Prabhu, how office, only there one chatai, they are sometime going sleep there. Kitchen too hot. Our kitchen, that wood and cold, no gas. So one time my daughter cried. So Ayendra Prabhu say, oh, no, why your daughter cry? Oh, my wife rolling chapati. So why you take? Well, no, I not take. So Ayendra Prabhu carry my daughter Vishaka. That time how maybe 6 months, 7 months my daughter. Ayendra Prabhu so love my family. Vibhu Chaitanya Mahaprabhu so love my family. And Amadir Bhuvaneshwar Prabhu so much prasad give my family. I remember 3. Today is a chance I speak 3 quality very nice devotee. Bhuvaneshwar Prabhu, Vibhu Chaitanya Prabhu and Ayendra Prabhu. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
So we would like to thank everyone, and now we will go to Vibhu Chaitanya Prabhu's Samadhi in our Bhaktivedanta Swami Goshala for Pushpanjali, Arati and offering. Hare Krishna. His Grace Vibhu Chaitanya Prabhu ki jai. His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.